Welcome back to the Vandy 24/7 podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer. Commitments keep rolling in for Mark Byington of Vanderbilt basketball. Today landed Cornell transfer AK Okereke, averaged 13.9 points per game last year, 4.6 rebounds a game. And I guess the kicker here, 4.1 assists per game, played 7% of his time at point guard despite being 6'7", 235. I think the frame otherwise speaks for itself, right? He's a really physical downhill driver. I think he's a good transition player, 58th percentile transition player. Can guard a lot of different positions. I think primarily played the 4 at Cornell last year, but you're looking at it and saying, well, he could play the 3 for Vanderbilt, he could maybe play the 4, and you don't quite feel like he's that much of an undersized 4. And Tyler Nickel is also 6'7", but I think Okereke's a little bit bulkier, could maybe guard 4s a little bit better. I think the thing that you're looking at and wondering kind of how it translates is the shooting, right? It's 32% shooter last year. That's worse than Chris Magnon was at Cornell. But I think they're different players in a way. I think Okereke's a more gifted scorer. I think Magnon's a little bit savvier. I think Magnon's more athletic, but Okereke's more physical. I think he's a better driver. I think he's a better ball handler. And also, I think he kind of knows his game. He knows he's not going to come in and take over the game at the SEC level. I think you're seeing a lot of mature moves out of him. He was a walk-on to start at Cornell, and I'm sure that will be a story that I chase over the next few weeks. But first of all, you look at him, and he's got a really nice first step, and I think that really helps him get downhill. When he gets downhill, you can see him finish it because he's so physical around the basket. I think that's probably the best aspect of his offensive game is his finishing ability and just his toughness around the bucket. But also you look at it and you're looking at, well, he knows that that's his calling card, right? He's only shooting 1.8 shots per game from beyond the arc. So he's not a high volume 3-point shooter. And he's also not necessarily forcing it around the basket from the looks of it. He's pretty efficient. It was a 59.5% shooter, which for a guy who's pretty perimeter oriented in terms of ball handling and going downhill, driving, not necessarily taking post touches off the catch, I think that's a real positive indicator. And kind of getting at the know who you are part of what I was talking about, the post touches, it's not a catch it on the block and work a mismatch or work somebody who's an inch or two shorter than him all the time. He's going to make his move, and if it doesn't work, he's going to back into a Barkley. And a lot of the time he'll pass it out of there too. I think he's a real developed passer. The 4.1 assists matter there. That's a stat that's worth noting, and I think that's going to help Vanderbilt. And also, I think a lot of the concern I have with kind of the way the roster is structured right now, without a true score first shooting guard on the roster, is do they have enough guys who can penetrate and kick it out? And I think AK Okereke is a guy who can do that. I think, first of all, the downhill ability. I think him and Mike James are the two best downhill drivers on the team, and neither of them are awesome shooters, so I think that hurts you a little bit. But I think especially Okereke is a good facilitator. I think he's got really good vision, and when you watch the passing tape, you see the passing numbers and you're like, wow, that's impressive, but it's not as much just a driving to kick type scenario, and I think that certainly helps Vanderbilt with its current build with guys like Devin McLaughlin and Tyler Nickel who want to shoot it, and even guys like Tyler Tanner who want to shoot it. I think that helps you, but also when he's driving it, he's looking for cutters. I think he has a real feel for cutting, and I think has a real feel for defending, and the way he passes it to cutters, I think indicates to you that he could maybe be able to play off of a guy like Frankie Collins a little bit. So I think with Chris Magnon, I'm going to be completely honest, that transition from the Ivy League to the SEC is way bigger than I think people think. I've seen a lot of Ivy League guys come into the SEC, and it looks completely different for them. I think the physicality here helps you think it could translate. I think the IQ in terms of the way he passes it and maybe how that translates to him cutting and receiving passes helps, because Chris Magnon, I think, had to figure that out a little bit last year, where he was playing off A.J. Hoggard, playing off Jason Edwards, had to figure out how do you have your rhythm offensively, and he finally figured it out within the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. It looked like, feel like maybe that's something that Okereke could do pretty well, but I think a pretty talented scorer, and I think the Chris Magnon comparison, it holds up in some ways, right? Like, I think he's going to be a role player. I think he's going to give him some lineup versatility, because I think he is a good 3. Maybe the spacing is concerning at the 3, but Magnon also played the 3 at times. The 4, I think I think it works better in terms of maybe his skill set, and I think Cornell agreed with that based off the way he played there, and I also think he can defend there. So those are the two positions that I see him at. I think his size profile is a little better for the 4 in the SEC, or for the 3 in the SEC, but I think the skill set probably plays better for the 4. So that's what I look at there. But I think having a guy like that, as having Chris Magnon did, gives you a lot of lineup flexibility to where you don't have to always have Tyler Nickel guarding the 4. And I talked to Tyler Nickel a few days ago for a couple stories, and that was something that he had brought up, is that I think I'm better at the 3. I think he thinks he can get to some of his rips a little bit better. He thinks he can maybe get off a few more closeouts by playing the 3, and that can unlock a different part of his game than maybe that's shown. This is the type of move that allows you to think that that's possible, right? They wanted to get bigger, they wanted to get more physical, and this move kind of fits the bill of those two things. I think he's very physical. He's a real threat to drive it. In the shooting, I don't know that it's the most natural shot in the world. It's not necessarily even Chris Magnon, where when it goes in, it looks super pretty, but I think it's capable. And I thought when I watched Magnon's tape, he shot a better shot or percentage than Okereke did last year at Cornell, which was kind of surprising to me. But I thought Okereke was guarded out there a little bit more. I thought they had to run him off a few more things to be able to get open looks. And I have a stat somewhere in the story, I want to find this, where it was something about his catch and shoot rate that was really encouraging too. He was an 82nd percentile catch and shoot guy last year. And I think that evidences to you that maybe the shooting could translate a little bit better than Magnon's did, because maybe the 3-point percentage isn't as high as Magnon's, but I think he's probably taken more contested ones, and he's more of a threat out there that they have to guard. And you saw Magnon's 3-point percentage drop a lot last year when he got to Vanderbilt. I don't think that'll be the case here. I think it could even go up a percentage point or two, just because of how good he was when he was getting ran off stuff, or when there would be somebody else who would drive it and kick it to him. I think Okereke is a real Swiss Army knife type player for Vanderbilt, and I think the Jordan Wright comparison's a little lazy there, just because I think Wright was the last true Swiss Army knife they had on their roster. But I think Okereke has a lot of those same qualities. I don't think he's going to be the off-the-dribble scorer that Jordan Wright was, or anything of the sort, but I think he's a versatile defender who does have a little bit of scoring punch once in a while, and I think he's going to be a guy that helps them in terms of their lineup flexibility, in terms of getting guys in the right positions. And I think the big thing for him too is obviously the transition from the Ivy League is big, but you've also got to learn kind of what is your role and how do you adequately play that role alongside some other good players. And I don't expect him to start. I think at the 3 and the 4, it's going to be Nickel and McLaughlin starting, but looking through the rest of the roster, I think there's a lot of playing time available for him, and I think he'll be a good player for Vanderbilt. So that's all we got today for AK Okereke. We'll talk soon again. I'm sure Vanderbilt's going to have some more commitments rolling in. Still have a few scholarships open, so thank you guys for watching. God bless, and we'll talk soon. Peace.